There is no God. Today we're going to talk about the story of Genesis, the story of the creation. This is a kind of a bullshit topic because the people who are stupid enough to believe in the creation story to begin with are so stupid that what's the fucking point? You're never going to change their minds. I mean, they're obviously retarded. I don't mean retarded isn't like you call your best friend retarded or you call someone who's really dumb retarded. I mean clinically retarded. I mean, I think if you read the Bible and you literally believe it to be true, then I'm surprised you can read to begin with. Okay, but that's not the point. I'm not trying to be rude to them. I mean, they're just not as evolved as everyone else on the planet. That's fine. In the beginning, God created... Wait, what? Where did this God character come from? What's his story? What are his origins? Nobody knows. Well, it's not really a creation story if you can't tell me where this fucking God came from all of a sudden. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. It seems to me that if you're going to tell me a creation story, I should know where the creator came from. Because if I don't know the origin of the creator, then I don't really know the origin of the universe because... Well, you see, because if he existed, then there was something in existence, so what? I don't get it. There was nothing, and then there was God? What? That doesn't make sense. I mean, it just doesn't, complexity just happened all of a sudden. Boom! God, wow! Granted, maybe there's something beyond the realm of human understanding that I'm just not grasping, but why would we just assume that there is? I mean, I think it's more natural to assume there isn't until we have evidence to the contrary, but most Christians disagree. Anyway. So, right from the beginning, first sentence, total bullshit, we already see, oh my god, this story's ridiculous. I mean, as far as beginnings go, that's almost as bad as, it was a dark and stormy night. Okay, so, fuck that. Alright, so what happens right off the bat? He makes a whole bunch of plants and birds and shit, which no one cared. I mean, he separated the light from the darkness, which is kind of weird because darkness is just the absence of light, and you wouldn't think you need to really split them up. But whatever, that's not the point. He made all that shit. That's really boring. No one cares. Oh, there is two contradicting versions of that in the Bible, by the way. I think there's one where he created plants and then animals, and one where he completed animals, then plants, or something along those lines. I don't really know. But there are two contradicting stories of creation. I know that much. So if you believe the Bible is literally true, you really do have to do some doublethink, some major doublethink in that department, because that's not even an arguable fallacy. I mean, some of these fallacies I can see Christians do their little tap dance around it. Well, that's different because this Jebediah and that Jebediah, Jebediah's life was symbolic or, whatever. But they can't really ignore that one. If they want to take the Bible literally, then they can't ignore that one. Because, there's two separate accounts of the same thing, and one contradicts the other, no matter how you look at it. But God works in mysterious ways. That's all they need. Faith! We have faith. We have faith that error is somehow, that we can't perceive, true. Maybe God did it twice. You ever think of that? He created one universe and he created another. And there's two different accounts. Maybe the first one fucked up and he, scratched it and then, he went on and did the same thing again, but did it in different order because it made more sense. Whatever. Then he creates Adam and Eve. Well, actually, let's go to the Jewish text for a minute. Because the Jews had this contradiction, and I don't know why they were so bothered by a contradiction in their holy text. There's so many contradictions, but apparently this one contradiction seemed bigger than all the other ones to them. One account of the creation of the world said that Adam and Eve were created at the same time. Well, it didn't say Adam and Eve were created at the same time, it said Adam and his wife were created at the same time. Because, women are barely worth naming, really. And then another account said, the basic story that we all know where he was, lonely and God, took a rib and made a woman, which, why would he need a rib? He didn't need anything to create Adam, so suddenly he needs a fucking rib? I don't get it, whatever. And, and did he take ribs from all the other male animals? Did he just create males initially? Were we all supposed to live in kind of a Brokeback Mountain society? I don't know. Anyway, so we have all these little problems here. But in Jewish lore, the way they solved this little contradiction, and once again, I don't know why they bothered, was they said that at first Adam had a wife named Lilith. Yeah, that's right, Adam had two wives. He first had a wife named Lilith, but she was kicked out of the garden because she wanted to be on top when they fucked. I'm not joking. That's really the fucking story. So Adam Adam didn't, I guess you didn't like him on top. I personally like them on top because then they get to control things and I just sit there and, be lazy. And I'm kind of I don't like to do a lot of work. I don't like all that thrusting and shit. They can do that. But Adam didn't like it. Apparently Adam was more of an athletic type of guy. He liked to be dominant and be on top and all that. So whatever. The old school mentality, obviously. Because if I had a girl that always wanted to be on top, I'd be fine with that. Call me ladies. Anyway, anyway, she got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and as punishment for being a bitch, apparently, God turned her into what we basically think of today as a vampire that feeds on children, which I would think is more of a punishment to the children than to her, and since there were no children at the time, it kind of doesn't make sense, but whatever. I guess she was going to have to wait a few thousand years until some children came about. Anyway, but that's not the main version of the Bible that most Christians believe in, so, that was just a little aside. So anyway, moving on, Adam and Eve are living on the earth, and they fuck, and let's go to the snake thing first. Okay, so they had a fucking snake in a tree, and the snake said, "Hey, bitch, eat this fruit, and get the knowledge of God." And she's like, "Wow, that sounds like a great idea." And she eats the fruit, which is really, even to most Christians, symbolic of them fucking, because that's the original sin, which is kind of weird because, one has an outie, one has an innie. He gave us natural curiosity. He's omnipresent and omnipotent and omniscient, and you would think that he'd see what was going to happen if he did that, and you would think that's the whole purpose of creating a man and a woman anyway, but whatever. So, God, in his infinite wisdom, purposely gave us a chance to fuck up so that we could get cast out of paradise and have this horrible sin in our lives and on inequality, and he could blame it all on us, even though he knew it was going to happen because he put it in our nature. So, God's a prick. Anyway, we all knew that. So they start fucking regular, and they have a few little mutiling infants, and one Cain and one Abel, and they're both brothers, and I guess that, they're just never going to have any fucking females, but it doesn't really seem to matter for reasons that I'll elaborate on later. So, anyway, they make their little offerings to God. Why the fuck does God need offerings? He created everything. What can you possibly offer him? He could only be giving. There's nothing you could give him in return, okay? What if he wants anything, he can have it. You giving him a lamb doesn't fucking mean anything. It's his lamb to begin with. If he supposedly exists, what's the fucking point? Why would he make us go through the trouble? Because he's a dick. Okay, so, anyway, Abel gives God, his sacrificial lamb. He kills a little lamb because, for God, whatever. And Cain gives him some fruit because it's Cain's job to tend to the fruit and it's Abel's job to tend to the lamb. But God says he don't want no fucking fruit because, of course, he's a vengeful, wrathful God that only likes blood. But, of course, Cain doesn't have any access to any blood, so it's really unreasonable for him to ask for it, but whatever. God's a prick. So, he says, well, Cain, your gift isn't good enough. You're not as good as your brother, whatever. So, Cain gets kind of pissed off because he's sick of always currying God's favor. He's sick of his brother always currying God's favor and everything, so he decides he's going to bash his brother's brains in. Wow. 4 people on the fucking planet, 5 if you count the Jewish tradition, but I guess she's a vampire, so she's not a person anyway. But 4 people on the fucking planet, and already we're killing each other. Very good message. So, Cain bashes Abel's fucking brains in, and God is walking through the garden because, whatever, he walks around then, I guess, because we're in his image and he's a human too, kind of. And he says, hey, where's Abel? And Cain's like, aren't you supposed to be, all-knowing? No. He said, am I my brother's keeper? And God's like, I see his blood on your hands. Now you must be punished. So as punishment, and God really sucked at punishments at this time, by the way. Lilith's punishment, not that bad. You're a vampire, you eat children. More of a punishment to the children than her, as we already said. And this punishment, even fucking less of a punishment. He puts a mark on Cain so that no one will harm him, which is weird because supposedly there's not supposed to be anyone else on the fucking planet. And Cain wanders around, he goes to a new town and finds a wife, and fucks her regular, and where's the fucking punishment? He doesn't have to live with his parents anymore, and now he's getting some pussy? Maybe I should kill my fucking brother. So anyway, and where the fuck did this town come from? Where was that? I didn't mention that. You know, all they had to do to make it consistent was say, and then God did the same shit all over the place. Put humans all over the place, and, you know, whatever. And so that's kind of weird. And now taking this story and applying it to modern logic, because there are people who do believe this story to be, 100% true. Okay, so what race were Adam and Eve? If they were, they're always depicted as being white. So how did the fuck did we get all these other races if there's no such thing as evolution? Doesn't seem to make sense to me. Anyway, we've established that the story is not true because it couldn't possibly be. If it was true, we know that God's a dick by about probably just that story alone makes God the biggest dick in all of history, pretty much. Worse than Hitler, worse than anybody, pretty much. Just totally obscenely fucking evil. Not something that you'd even want to worship if you did believe in it. But apparently people do anyway, and people who believe that fucking story worship him. And I think they call themselves God-fearing, and I can see why. I'd be scared of that too if I believed in it. But I think it's kind of weird that they're so, they're supposed to be these moral people, but they're so immoral that they would worship someone who they knew, to be evil. Because this God is obviously a fucking malevolent bastard. So, anyway, I'm just having fun, just talking about this stupid shit, just pointing it out. You all know it's bullshit. Even most of the Christians know it's bullshit at this point. But, we just have a little fun with it. Peace.